Hey guys, it's Kim here with Verily Fiber Fun. Thanks for joining me on today's dyeing experiment. We're working on what sort of greens we can get by mixing different blues and different yellows together. So I'm really excited to experiment like this and see what different greens we can come up with. To get started, I have fleece that I'm dyeing, so I need to pre-soak it in water, cold water, and a teaspoon of citric acid for 60 grams of wool. I tend to measure out 60 grams of clean fleece because I know there's going to be some waste during processing, and in the end I want to have at least 50 grams of yarn. So I overshoot a little bit on the raw fleece. So while this soaks, let's get the dye area set up. My child just washed dishes and they're still damp, so I don't want to put them away. So I'm just going to cover them up with plastic and get everything set out. Here I have bright yellow and sun yellow. Now all the dyes I'm using today are Jacquard acid dyes purchased from Dharma Trading Company, courtesy of our Patreon patrons. That blue was sky blue, and this is brilliant blue. And later I decide to also use turquoise and see what kind of colors I get with the turquoise. So here I'm going to show you how I mix my dye stock. I am wearing a mask and gloves and apron and all that lovely stuff. I use 1 teaspoon of dye per cup of water, and my containers hold about 3 cups. So I put 3 teaspoons of dye in my measuring cup and then boiling hot water. I got this recipe from Laura on Jinx Yarns after watching her tutorials. So if you want more detailed information about it, please go over to her channel and watch her setup and equipment and how-to video on how to mix dyes and all that. So once you pour the boiling water on your dye, you have to mix it quite thoroughly to get it all as dissolved as possible. Urea would help, but I don't have any, and this works. I don't mind putting out a little bit of extra effort. So before I put it in my big jar, I do add some cold water so that my glass jar doesn't break. And sometimes I get in a hurry and spill it on the outside. That doesn't matter. I'm not doing this on a major production level right now, so I'm a little flexible in the things that happen. I'm not uber paranoid about stuff. And the paper towels are there for spillage. You know, that's what it's there for. I spritz the paper towels down to catch any dry powder that might fly down there and then go up in the air later, because I don't want to breathe the powder. So the wet paper towels, again, from Laura's idea from Jinx Yarns. Alright, so once the fleece has soaked enough to get thoroughly wet all the way through, because it does take a while, wool does not like to absorb water immediately, just add some citric acid to the pot and fill it up with water, cold tap water, and then I'll add the fleece. I'll add the dye and then add the fleece and then heat it up in that order. I lost my train of thought. Well, let's mix up our dye. I'm showing you in my hand the results of mixing sky blue and bright yellow. And this green in my hand is sun yellow and brilliant blue. So as you can see, the blue and yellow base makes a totally different green. Now I can't use the brilliant blue yet, so I'm going to flip-flop the yellows. I'm going to use sky blue with sun yellow. In the first batch I did sky blue and bright yellow. So let's try it with the opposite yellow and see what we come up with. I've noticed the sky blue is a drastically different blue, and the sun yellow looks really, really cloudy, but it makes really, really bright, almost fluorescent yellow, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It does take a long time to get it stirred up. When it's been sitting, it kind of wants to separate, so I have to stir the yellow for a while. Now I'm going to use an equal portion of yellow and blue together, just to see what happens. And in this first batch, I'm mixing up a little bit, and then I decide to add more. Now, it's been a while since I filmed this. The kids were home from school, and we had the TV on and everything, which is the reason for the voiceover. So, but I had a lot of fun doing this while they were rampaging around the house. So I will come back at the end of the video and give you detailed descriptions of the colors used, the amount of dye, things like that. But see here, you can see in the pot, this is not as dark and bold a color as I was wanting. So I'm just going to grab a little bit more dye and use the dye water to rinse my measuring spoon off, which you're not really supposed to do, but for this experiment I don't think it matters. There's a little bit more dye. Alright, so I'm going to get the fleece in there next, and then while that heats up I'll be writing my notes of what I'm doing and put in for each of the color combinations what I want to do and how much citric acid, how much wool, and then once I finish putting the dye in, I'll fill in how many tablespoons of which colors I used, so that if I want to replicate this process, I can. And once everything is out of the pot and dry, and we look at the colors and figure out, lime green, grass green, Kelly green, things like that, and I will label, inside my notebook, I will label which colors created, or which combination created the color that I ended up with. Alright, so this is what the first color looks like, and it's time to take it out and give it a wash. I'm just using some of my regular dish soap. If you have wool wash, I would recommend you use that instead. And the hottest tap water I can get, which is hotter than I can touch. I have my hot water heater set up pretty darn hot. So just transferring the wool from the pot that only sat for a little while with the heat turned off to cool down. So it's pretty hot, very, very painful to touch it over long, more than a second or two at a time. And so is my tap water, so I figured it would not felt, and it didn't. But I let it soak for a little while in the soapy water and let it cool down just a little bit. And then I'll take it out and I'll put it in fresh water with no soap, and I'll do that twice, gradually cooling the water down as I go. So each batch of water will be just a little bit cooler. But I'm just going to let it sit there for now, and while the hot water is cooling off, I'm mixing up some more citric acid in a fresh pot of water. I dumped out the water because my fleece is cold and I don't want to put it in hot water. So I did cool off the pan with my cold tap water and run fresh water in it so that I don't felt the fleece. And here we're going to put our second color combination in. I will be back in a little while live to talk to you about how I made each color and give you all those juicy details. I'm sure you guys are dying to know that. Ha ha ha. Get that? Dying, and this is a dying video? Okay, never mind. So let's see what color we get from this. It's really pretty. I love how quickly the color strikes when you put the citric acid in there. Alright guys, so here's the results of our dye experiment. We have the first two that were already dyed, and then the ones I shared a little bit of the dyeing process with you guys here in this video. So the very first green that I tried to make was this one, and it is equal portions sky blue and bright yellow. And 4.5 teaspoons. So there wasn't a lot of color. I'm now using tablespoons instead, and it's working much better. But sky blue and bright yellow. This is sky blue and sun yellow, and I used 4 tablespoons of sky blue and 3 tablespoons of sun yellow. And it's not a whole lot brighter. It's just, the yellow is a lot brighter. The sky blue is kind of a, I guess, a smoky tinge to it, and the bright yellow is not a really bright yellow, so it made kind of a dull color. Here's the fleece of the sky blue and sun yellow. I love it. I love the difference between fleece and carding because the carding completely changes the color again. Alright, so the second one I originally dyed, and I did the opposite yellow in our experiment. But the first one was brilliant blue instead of bright blue. It's brilliant blue and sun yellow. And I had not mixed any dye stock, so this is an 1/8 teaspoon of each of the powder. So here we have a grassy looking color. It's a little bit on the dark side, a little bit too much color, I think. And then we have the same blue and bright yellow. So this is brilliant blue and bright yellow. And I used 4 tablespoons brilliant blue and 3 tablespoons of bright yellow dye stock. And I should have used equal portions, but I really like the way this turned out. So I will have to try this again with equal portions. I have to remember the brilliant blue is a more intense color than the sky blue. Okay. So then I mixed up some turquoise, and I did turquoise and sun yellow to get this equal portions, to get this beautiful Kelly green. It's just gorgeous. And then I have turquoise and bright yellow to get this winter green, I'm completely drawn a blank here on what I wanted to say. Forest green, fir tree green. I'm not really sure, but it's absolutely gorgeous. Out of all of these, my favorites are on this top row. I definitely like the turquoise with yellow, either sun yellow or bright yellow, a whole lot better than any of the other colors, but I do like them all. So it was a fun experiment, and I hope you learned a few things with me and enjoyed the process. I know I did. So I will see you guys next time with how I card my roll logs, or carding, making roll logs, and dizzing straight off the hand cards. I might even throw in a short clip about spinning off the hand cards. So stay tuned for that coming up next. All right, bye guys.